It must therefore first be shown that every agent in action aims at some end. For in those things which manifestly act for the sake of an end, we say that this is the end towards which the impulse of the agent tends, as is evident in the physician working for health and the man running to a certain limit. Nor does it differ as far as this is concerned, whether that which aims at the end is known or not. For as the mark is the end of the archer, so is the end of the movement of the arrow. Now every impulse of an agent tends to something definite. For every action does not proceed from any power, but indeed from heating, and cooling from cold. Hence the actions also differ according to the diversity of the active species. Action, however, is sometimes limited to some deed, such as the building of a house, the healing of health, but sometimes not, such as understanding and feeling. And if the action is indeed limited to some deed, the impulse of the agent tends through the action to that deed. But if it is not limited to some deed, the impulse of the agent tends to the action itself. It is necessary, therefore, that every agent in acting should aim at the end. Sometimes indeed the action itself, sometimes something done by action. Still, in all agents for the sake of the end, we say that this is the ultimate end, beyond which the agent does not seek anything. Just as the action of the physician is up to health, and having obtained that, he does not strive for anything further. But in the action of any agent, it is to find something beyond which the agent does not seek anything. For other actions would tend to infinity, which indeed is impossible because, since it is not infinite, the agent would not begin to act. For nothing is moved to that which is impossible to reach. Every agent, therefore, acts for the sake of an end. Further, if the actions of the agent proceed ad infinitum, it is necessary that either some deed follows from these actions, or it does not. If indeed a deed follows, the existence of that deed will follow after infinite actions. Now that which presupposes the infinite, it is impossible to be, since it is not infinite to pass through. But what is impossible to be is impossible to be done, and what is impossible to be done is impossible to do. It is therefore impossible for an agent to begin to do any act for which infinite actions are required. But if no deed follows from these actions, the order of such actions must be either according to the order of the active virtues, as if a man feels that he is imagined, but is imagined that he understands, but understands as he wills, or according to the order of objects, as I consider the body as I consider the soul, which I consider in order to consider a separate substance, which I consider in order to consider God. Now it is not possible to proceed ad infinitum, neither in active virtues nor in the forms of things, as proved in metaphysics. It is therefore not possible for actions to proceed ad infinitum. There must therefore be something in which the agent's effort rests. Every agent, therefore, acts for the sake of an end. Again, in those things which act for the sake of an end, all that is intermediate between the first agent and the ultimate end are ends with respect to the former, and active principles with respect to the latter. If therefore the effort of the agent is not for something determined, but the actions, as has been said, proceed ad infinitum, the active principles must proceed ad infinitum. This is impossible, as was shown above. It is necessary, therefore, that the effort of the agent be for something determined. Still, every agent either acts by nature or by intellect. As for those who act through the intellect, there is no doubt that they act for the sake of the end. For those who preconceive in the intellect what they achieve through action act, and they act from such a preconception. For this is to act by the understanding. But just as in the preconceived intellect there exists the whole similitude of the effect which is arrived at by the actions of the intelligent, so in the natural agent there pre-exists the similitude of the natural effect, from which the action to this effect is determined. For fire begets fire, and an olive an olive. Therefore, just as the agent by means of the intellect tends to the end determined by his action, so the agent by nature. Every agent, therefore, acts for the sake of an end. Further, sin is not found except in those things which are for the sake of the end, for it is not imputed to anyone for sin if he falls short of that which he is not. For the physician is imputed to sin if he fails to heal, but not the builder or the grammarian. But we find sin in those things which are done according to art, as when a grammarian does not speak correctly, and in those things which are according to nature, as is evident in monstrous births. Therefore, he who acts according to nature, as well as he who acts according to art and purpose, acts for the sake of the end. Again, if the agent did not tend to any particular effect, all effects would be indifferent to him. But what is indifferently related to many things does not work one of them more than another. Hence, no effect follows from the tangent to both, unless it is determined by something to the one. It would therefore be impossible for him to do so. Therefore, every agent tends to some definite effect, which is called its end. Now there are certain actions which do not seem to be for the sake of an end, such as playful and contemplative actions, and actions which are done without attention, such as the rubbing of a beard and the like, from which one may suppose that there is some agent, not for the sake of an end. But it must be known that contemplative actions are not for another end, but are the end themselves. But playful actions are sometimes the end, when one plays only for the pleasure of the game, but sometimes they are for the sake of the end, so that when we play, we study better afterwards. But the actions which are done without attention are not from the intellect, but from some sudden imagination or natural principle, just as the disorder of the humors which excite itching is the cause of the rubbing of the beard, which is done without the attention of the intellect. These tend to some end, though beyond the order of the understanding. By this means, the error of the ancient naturalists is excluded, who posited that all things are made from the necessity of matter, completely withdrawing the final cause from things.